Merry Christmas, happy holidays, soon to be happy first night of Hanukkah for anybody who celebrates anything out there. My name is Garrett Burroughs, and as a part of the Vendetta Sports Media family, we want to wish you and yours a very happy holiday season. Hopefully, you woke up this morning, got everything you wanted under the Christmas tree, etc., etc. In this one, I figured it'd be kind of fun, so I'm not really doing anything much on Christmas today. I'm wearing my Steelers ugly sweater the Steelers are playing right now. Gonna watch the second half. Just thought I'd hop on here, upload to the YouTube channel. Hopefully the quality is good enough. Hopefully it meets expectations here at Vendetta Sports Media. But we are going to be going over. So we'll call this my first mock draft of the year. I kind of wanted to put one out after the national championship game for college football, but I figured why not? Christmas season, holiday spirit. We're going to get into it here. We're going to be doing 2 rounds, not just one. We're going to be doing 2 rounds because why not? You know what I mean? I've got it loaded up here. Let me just move this over on my side of the screen. All right. As you can see, we've got 2 rounds selected. We're going to go pick by pick, kind of talk it through. Can we start off with something really quick at the top here that the Las Vegas Raiders might have fucked themselves by having pride in winning a game? Because as it stands right now, they're picking 6 overall, and the Fighting Chicksters are in desperate need of a quarterback. They just are. They are probably among the short list of 2 to 3 teams in the NFL that like have to get a quarterback and they have to get it right. And I was telling Chickster this the other day. If they are outside of the top 3 to 4 picks, there is only the only right situation is to trade up. That's it. You can't do anything else. You can't stand pat at 5, 6, 7 and hope that a quarterback falls into your lap because Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going to be gone within the first 3 picks, probably, depending on how the order shakes up. But as it stands right now, the number 1 team on the clock with the first overall pick is the New York Giants. This team is in desperate need of a quarterback. It is one of the situations where it kind of feels like, who do you have at the top of your board? Is it Shedeur? Is it Cam Ward? For me, it's Cam Ward, but there's going to be a lot of politicking that goes into this draft process this season. There's reports that Shedeur has to nail the pre-draft process to dethrone Cam Ward as the number 1 overall pick. That's what some of the reports are coming out. That's all hearsay. Between now and mid-April, when we actually get to the NFL draft, it's all a guessing game. It's all blowing smoke. But as it stands right now, I think the number 1 overall pick is going to be Cam Ward. That is the smoke signals that we're getting as of this time. That is all the stuff that we have to assume and work with. He is my QB1. I think that it makes the most sense for the Giants. They've already cut bait with Daniel Jones. Just move on, eat the salary cap, bring in a new quarterback. For me, best quarterback from the class is Cam Ward. Number 2, this is a perfect situation for the New England Patriots because they get Shohei Ohtani, right? He, in most classes, should be going first overall. But if Jacksonville was picking first, if New England was picking first, I could see a situation where they might trade down, actually. But in this mock draft, as you guys know, we never do trade downs. When we're doing these mock drafts, we're just going one by one. We're not predicting trades. So in this one, New England fills a hole on either side of the ball. You either get another shutdown corner opposite Christian Gonzalez, or you get an elite playmaker at wide receiver, and he becomes your wide receiver 1 in Travis Hunter. No doubt about it, they sprint to the podium to turn in the card for Travis Hunter. Now it gets a little bit interesting because I don't know that there is like elite top level tackle prospects in this class. And I say that as I think Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Emory Jones, who's kind of falling down boards a little bit, but at least Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks are the top 2 tackles in the class. Both are really good. I have Kelvin Banks as my OT1. Beginning of the year, I had Will Campbell as my offensive tackle 1. I dubbed him as a top 10 pick back in his freaking freshman season. That kid is going to be really good. But right now, I think Kelvin Banks is a much more polished prospect coming out. Jacksonville's got to do a better job of protecting Trevor Lawrence. Now, granted, they also need to, maybe get a coach that can actually elevate his play. Part of that's also on Trevor Lawrence as well, though. if we're being completely honest. Trevor Lawrence, like, yes, there's the coaching situations and the offensive line's always stunk, but it doesn't feel like he's necessarily elevated his game as much as we kind of expected him to as the best prospect coming out since Andrew Luck. Now, I'm still completely on the Trevor Lawrence bandwagon, but social media, how much they love to, oh, this guy's a bust and this guy stinks and whatever. Trevor Lawrence does not stink. I'm sorry, he's not a bust. He doesn't stink. But I think it is fair to say that he hasn't developed as much as maybe he should have. That's all we're saying. He still needs to take those next steps, but he's far from a bust. And I think it would go a long way in doing that by keeping him upright. And that is to bring in a top level offensive tackle. And for me, the top one in the class is Kelvin Banks. Seems to make the most sense to me. They've tried to make moves in the past. It's never really worked out. Now we establish that like premier tackle for Trevor Lawrence. Tennessee on the clock at 4. They also should probably go quarterback. I think Will Levis stinks. We already knew that coming out of the draft, but I don't see them pulling the plug on Will Levis this early. I just don't. They might try to find a bridge quarterback because like this defense is solid. They have a nice defense. They have nice pieces on defense. They play hard, but the offense kind of stinks as well. So would I be shocked if Tennessee went quarterback? A little bit, yes. So in this one, I'm not going to be mocking Tennessee to be drafting a quarterback. I think when we look at the board here, I think we kind of need to go best player available versus the needs of the team. The interior of this defensive line struggles quite a bit against the run. So we're kind of looking at Mason Graham out of Michigan or Abdul Carter out of Penn State. For me, I think best player available is probably Abdul Carter. And at this point in time, Tennessee can't really afford to not take the best player available. If we're going to load up on defense, we're going to load up on defense and just hammer the run game with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. So we're going to go ahead and take Abdul Carter at 4. 5 on the clock is the Cleveland Browns, and this really sucks if you're the Fighting Chicksters because you're getting sniped here. I told you guys at the start of this. This is a premier spot for Vegas. Like they have to trade up, and we're obviously not doing trades. They're gonna get sniped here because Deshaun Watson is his NFL career done. Maybe it kind of feels that way. It seems like the Achilles, and he's had the knee injury before, and all the salary cap and all the drama off the field, and it just keeps the season coming. They're gonna reset. The only thing is, will Dion let Shedeur play in Cleveland? That's the question. That's the question we have to ask ourselves here. I don't necessarily know that, but we're going off of team needs. Like, would Dion love it if his boy went to New York or Vegas, 2 of the bigger markets in the NFL? Obviously. But on some level, you can't necessarily help that. So we're going to go ahead and take Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland, which, again, absolutely sucks for Las Vegas. There's just no 1 and 2A about it. They get sniped. Vegas is on the clock at 6. There is no quarterback you can take here. I'm sorry. There is just no quarterback you can take. You can't take Quinn at 6. You definitely can't take Jalen Milroe at 6. If you take Jackson Dart in the first round, you're punting on the pick. You're absolutely punting it. No shot, Dion riots over Browns. I know. I understand that 100%. I understand that 100%. If he doesn't go to Las Vegas or if he doesn't go to the Giants, he's going to have a fit. But we can't help that. That's just how the board has fallen. We look at this team in Las Vegas, they stink. They absolutely stink. They need help all over the place. The defensive line, granted, has had injuries all year. It's Malcolm Kuntz, hurt. Christian Wilkins, hurt. Now we've got Max Crosby, hurt. But I think the bigger need is in the secondary. Like, Jack Jones is a fine player, right? But he wouldn't be a CB1 on most other teams in the NFL. It's fair to say that Jack Jones is a dog, right? And he's a hell of a team player, right? But he doesn't have elite traits that make him like one of the top like cornerbacks in the NFL. I don't know that he'd be in the top 10 conversation at cornerback in the NFL. So when we look at the board, you can land a shutdown corner in Will Johnson out of Michigan. Fluid hips, great back pedal. I think he's got all the traits to be a top corner, like especially coming out too. He's got the skill set to be really, really good and take over that CB1 position in Las Vegas. Hopefully, this is a 2-round mock, so we're going to see how the board falls in the second round. Maybe you take a shot on Quinn. I don't know that Jalen Milroe is going to be there. Hint, in a couple of picks, he might be going. This is also, I'm predicting what might happen. This is partially like what I would do, partially what I think might happen. Spoiler, I don't think Jalen Milroe makes it out of the first round because someone's going to take a shot at him because he's going to run crazy at the combine. Anyway, Carolina's on the clock at 7. Have they figured out the Bryce Young situation? It seems like maybe they're starting to turn the corner. If you would have asked me this 6 weeks ago, I would have said Carolina is 100% taking a quarterback. 100% taking a quarterback. Bryce Young isn't cut out for it. He might stink. He might be a bust, although it's still way too early to label somebody like that. Anyway, but now I'm not 100% convinced that quarterback is like the way you have to go, especially with how the board has fallen. But like, if things were a little bit different, if they were continuing to struggle, then sure, I could see Carolina potentially making a move at quarterback. But it seems like this team's really starting to rally around Bryce Young. He's finally starting to find his footing. And I don't think you have to go quarterback here. So when we look at the board, you've still got a Mason Graham. You've still got Will Campbell. You've got Mac. I know you drafted Xavier Legette, but that wasn't a stellar pick to begin with. You know, you still got freaks of nature like Michael Williams. You could go a Nick Skorts and a James Pierce. For me, this pick should indicate where you stand with Bryce Young. And for me, if I'm the GM of the Carolina Panthers, I'm doing everything in my power to protect Bryce. I understand that the defensive side of the ball is a major, major hole, right? The defense all over just basically stinks. It's basically bad all over. And you need edge rushers, right? This class has some edge rushers, though. And I don't know that edge rusher has way more depth in it than offensive tackle. So we're going to go ahead and take an offensive tackle here. We're going to go ahead and protect Bryce Young. We're going to go ahead and take Will Campbell out of LSU. Still raw in bits of his game. I think that his ceiling is exponentially high. His ceiling is as high as he really wants it to be. He's got all the athletic traits. He just needs to clean up the footwork, the hand placement. His hands can be violent at times, which is what you want in an offensive tackle. They don't scream to me like he's a mauler on the edge. And I think those are some things that he can maybe clean up. The Jets at 8. This is the spot for Jalen Milroe. I'm sorry. I don't necessarily love this pick. However, they would be smart to get off of Aaron Rodgers. The experiment has failed. Let's call a spade a spade. The experiment's failed. You get off of him, and you expect this team to run into 2025 with Jordan Travis as starting quarterback. Now, it would be the funniest thing ever if they brought in a head coach, an offensive-minded head coach, and they called up Sam Darnold and said, "Hey, listen, Sam, before we didn't set you up for success. That's on us. But we're going to bring in an offensive-minded coach. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall in this offense. You might still be able to keep Devontae Adams as well. This is on us." Maybe they bring in a Sam Darnold. Maybe they bring in a bridge quarterback for next year. If we're working under that assumption, then you maybe have to go offensive line here. Maybe you go best player available and just draft another edge rusher, right? If I've learned anything from Trey, especially over the last year to 2 years, you can just load up on positions. You can just load up and load up and load up, right? Because I think it was the Steelers mock draft, the Steelers worm he did last year. I think he had Pittsburgh taking like 3 defensive tackles. Now I'm kind of getting it a little bit. I still don't love taking 3 defensive tackles in one draft class. However, like if there's a need and you can get a really good one or a really good couple of them, why not? So I think I've changed my mind a little bit. I was originally going to go Jalen Milroe here. However, I am going to work under the assumption that they're going to bring in a bridge quarterback. And maybe they take a quarterback later on in the draft because Jordan Travis isn't it, obviously, right? So we're going to go best player available here. We're doing a little bit of a change here. For me, the best player available on the board that helps them out is probably Will McDonald hasn't really totally panned out. Jermaine Johnson's a fine player. There's always a need for edge rushers, right? But edge rusher, we're going to go Mason Graham. We're going to turn in the ticket for Mason Graham. That's what it is. We're turning in the card for Mason Graham. We're going to sleep like a baby at night. Mason Graham, talent-wise, among probably the top 5 to 7 players in the draft anyway. Maybe getting a steal here. Beef up the interior of the defensive line. I'm working under the assumption that they're going to bring in some form of bridge quarterback, or this front office is stupid enough. Maybe they just make a trade for another quarterback. I don't fucking know. I was originally thinking about going Jalen Milroe here, but I really hate that pick. That pick seems really, really poor to me. The Chicago Bears at 9 have to go edge rusher here. Now, Mason Graham would have been a stellar pick here for Chicago as well, but we're going to go edge rusher, and it's kind of like pick your favorite here because you've got 3 great options. I think if I were to rank them, I'm probably going James Pierce, Mykel Williams, Nick Scorton, but I love all 3 of these guys. I love all 3 of them. For me, the player with the highest upside is probably James Pierce. We're going to bank on upside. We're going to go James Pierce. Offensive line also would have been a good option here because that offensive line stinks. It's way too early to take a guard, I think. I think Donovan Jackson probably deserves love to go in the first round. He probably won't as of right now, at least until he establishes a position, because Ohio State's had some injuries at tackle this year. So Donovan Jackson has been playing a lot of tackle, but his natural position is inside at guard. So if he declares as an offensive tackle, I think he's a first round pick all day long. If he declares as a guard, I think you could see him sneaking into the first round because of the versatility he displayed this year. It's too early for Tyler Booker. I like Jonah, Cameron, Ayers out of Minnesota. Like I said, Emory Jones kind of falling down boards a little bit, but I think he's got a ton of upside as well. So Chicago definitely could have gone offensive tackle there, but the defense also kind of stinks. And I think that there's some nice options in free agency on the offensive line. Maybe they just go there instead. We've got the New Orleans Saints on the clock at 10. This team also kind of stinks. This team also has holes at offensive line and the edge. This defense getting up there in age, especially the defensive line. We're also going to go defensive line here as well. I think who fits this defense better is like a Mykel Williams. So we're going to go Mykel Williams to New Orleans. I don't know what to do with the San Francisco 49ers. I just don't. I have no idea what to do with this team entering the 2024 offseason, going into the 2025 draft. I would be scared to death to pay Brock Purdy $60 million a year. Scared to death. I couldn't do it. I honestly, and I've been a known Brock Purdy hater, right? I have. Let's just call a spade a spade. I've been a Brock Purdy hater since he took over the job, started winning a couple of games. Everyone thought he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I've been a hater. I don't know that I would pay Brock Purdy $35 million a year. You could cut his expected salary in half, and I still don't think I'd pay it. Because he is a system. I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, they're probably going to pay him this offseason. I think that's going to be a mistake. So how can we surround Brock Purdy and put him in the best situation possible? For me, if you're picking up here at 11, you got to look at the offensive line, but we just went over it with the last 2 picks. It feels a little early. It feels like we're maybe reaching on some of those tackles, even though I quite like some of the options back there. I think we need to get a little bit healthier on defense and maybe get some more prospects on defense. We're gonna go edge 3 picks in a row. I think this is a Nick Skeleton pick as well. I think pairing him with Bosa and with some of those guys on the defensive line is really, really intriguing. I could also see them going cornerback here. It feels a little bit early for some of the cornerback options here as well. I quite like Ravel Morrison. I think Morrison probably falls out of the first round because of that hip injury he's going through. I'm really interested to watch Ravel, the East Carolina kid. Also, shout out to Trey for his East Carolina series. It's top stuff. Be sure to check that out on the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. And you can go through the hub at vendettasportsmedia.com that he has all of the uploads on as well. The Miami Dolphins are on the clock. The Fighting Jefferson Legals have to go offensive line here. There's no other option for this team but to go offensive line, right? They should have went offensive line last year, and they didn't. I feel like they maybe should have addressed offensive line in a higher fashion in the year prior to that. So we're not going to make the same mistake this year. This is an offensive line pick. Out of all of these players, you probably should go Tyler Booker. I think out of the players left on the board, Jonah Cameron, I think Irsay might make it into the first round of my mock. I think the biggest difference maker is probably Tyler Booker. I understand that taking a guard at 12 might be kind of ridiculous, right? However, I think he will come into the league with a higher floor. His ceiling may be slightly lower than some of the offensive tackles on the board. However, this team is sort of in win now mode, I'd say. We don't really know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. He's been kind of flirting at retirement on Twitter. I know that, receivers are typically prima donnas and they just kind of do those things, maybe negotiate their contract or what have you, or complain about a bad situation. But if we're going to go with the assumption that we're in win now mode, we're going to take the player that gives us the best opportunity to win now, and I think that's Tyler Booker. On the clock at 13 is the Indianapolis Colts. This team is in a weird spot. And I'm going to try not to have this rant go for too long, right? Anthony Richardson is the quarterback of this team. He is the future of the franchise. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't. That's a mistake to think that he's not the franchise. Yes, the accuracy concerns are real. Yes, the pocket awareness at times isn't stellar. He makes some erratic throws sometimes. He's got an issue fumbling the football in the pocket, right? That's almost partly on Shane Steichen. Now, I'm not sitting here placing no blame on Anthony Richardson. I 100% believes he deserves blame. I think the benching was great for him. I really do. The benching was great for him. He's had nice games. The Jets game after he got benched and came back, that is his ceiling. I think he went 20 for 30, like 270, 280, 2 touchdowns and a touchdown, or like 2 total touchdowns, right? That's the ceiling for Anthony Richardson. He can be a low to mid 60s completion percentage quarterback. He can do that. We've seen it. The offense is not ran in the best way to suit his skill set. And I think we saw that in the Tennessee game. He went 7 for 13, like a buck 30 something through the air and a passing touchdown, 9 carries, 70 yards and a touchdown. That's the offense that should be ran with Anthony Richardson as we develop his passing skills. It's a no-brainer. You have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield as well. You have at his peak, a top 5 running back, and you have a top 3 to 5 mobile quarterback. Hence, like, emphasis on mobile, right? The idea should be you are probably running this football 35 times a game. I'm not kidding. You're running the football 20 to 22 times with Jonathan Taylor. You're running the football 7 to 12 times with Anthony Richardson on designed runs, and then you draft a running back in this draft class, platoon him behind AR, behind JT. That's the offense that should be ran in Indianapolis. But asking Anthony Richardson to throw the football 35, 40 times a game is a recipe for disaster because he is not there. He's just not. I'm sorry. My rant's over. There's two spots that Indianapolis needs to address here. The tight end sucks, and the secondary sucks outside of Kenny Moore. Shout out Valdosta State University. For me, I think the best player available is probably Malachi Starks. However, depending on how he runs at the combine, Tyler Warren is 100% in play here as the top tight end in this class. I think that we've seen teams do really well in the day 2 range trying to pick up tight ends. There's a kid at Bowling Green as well they might be able to take in the second round who I quite like as well as a receiving option. I think it makes the most sense and it has the biggest impact on the team to take Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I think Malachi Starks also among the top 5 to 7 players in this draft talent-wise. Maybe a slight down year, maybe a slight regression this year for Malachi Starks based off of his play at the end of last year especially. But Malachi Starks to Indianapolis is a fantastic fit. The Bengals are on the clock at 14. This is a no-brainer to me. A 100% no-brainer. You take Ermac out of Arizona. The best wide receiver in the class. I don't necessarily think it's close. He's an aircraft carrier. This dude is a freak of nature. T. Higgins, you 100% let him walk in free agency. There's no way you pay T. Higgins $30 million for 11 games a year. You just can't. You let some other team pay him, or you tag him and trade him, which doesn't happen necessarily as much anymore. But T. Higgins is not on this team in 2025, and you pair Jamar Chase with Ermac and let Joe Burrow absolutely feast next year. I hate this pick, but it's a no-brainer pick for the Dallas Cowboys to take Ashton Jeanty. 100%. No questions asked. It fills a massive hole in the offense. I think there are bigger needs. However, this is going to be the most popular landing spot for Ashton Jeanty. Everyone and their mother between January 21st, which is the day after the college football season, and the days leading up to the NFL draft, everyone and their mother is going to be mocking Ashton Jeanty to Dallas. I guarantee it. Ashton Jeanty does not escape the Dallas Cowboys in the draft. No questions asked. Rico Dowdle has played nice for the Dallas Cowboys this year with a makeshift offensive line, Cooper Rush at quarterback, nothing really to play for. He's a hard runner. He's physical, plays behind his pads. He has a chance to maybe make it on another team next year as a rotational piece. I don't think Rico Dowdle will ever be a running back 1 for a football team. But to say that Rico Dowdle doesn't have a role in the NFL as a really solid number 2 running back on a team, a bit foolish. I was thinking that at the beginning of the year. I was just maybe Rico Dowdle's not it. But we've seen especially over the last 4 to 6 weeks or so, Rico Dowdle he's etching a spot in the NFL. But it's Ashton Jeanty. Arizona at 16 are kind of in a doomsday spot. I'm not necessarily saying they need to have a conversation about Kyler Murray. I saw a tweet, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, that nobody's acknowledging how bad Kyler Murray is because he always plays at the 4:00 slate on the NFL. So he's never really in prime time. So he never gets the eyes on him. And I thought that was hysterical, but it kind of makes sense. It kind of does make sense. You've got James Conner, who plays at a top 10 level in the NFL. You've got Trey McBride, who's a top 3 tight end in the NFL. And you've got Marvin Harrison, who is a generational talent at wide receiver. And this team's still struggling on offense. And at some level, the blame has to start to fall on Kyler Murray. I'm not necessarily saying that the blame has to be on Kyler right this second, right? However, maybe there needs to be a conversation about him. That's all I'm saying. How can we set up Kyler Murray in this offense for success? The interior of the defensive line stinks. I don't think there's anybody you can take this high. I think that the next best defensive tackle on the board is probably Walter Nolan, but I don't think you can take him at 16. We look at the offensive line, says it needs guard. This feels way too high for Donovan Jackson. The tackles are fine. Paris Campbell, playing nice. He's not playing too bad this year. So I think we need to look at best player available. And I don't think we can take wide receiver in back-to-back classes in the first round. So we're going to go ahead and etch that out as well. I think for me, the best player available on the board as it stands right now is Jalen Walker out of Georgia. He has stepped up in a brilliant way, especially the beginning part of the year in the absence of Mykel Williams, and established himself as one of the premier edge rushers, off-ball linebackers in college this year. And I think you just go ahead and take the best player available. And I think that's Jalen Walker. The Buccaneers are on the clock here at 17. I think you need to go in one of two directions here. Chris Godwin's gone. Chris Godwin is 100% gone. Coming off of another injury. Mike Evans is getting older in age. We've seen step up and play from Jalen McMillan, which I did not expect when he was coming out. I wasn't overly critic of his, but I wasn't necessarily super high on him either. Jalen McMillan is playing at a very good level right now with Baker Mayfield. They seem to have a really solid connection. I think this is the perfect landing spot, however, for Revel out of East Carolina. I think we've seen him have a stock rise similar to Quinyon Mitchell last year out of Toledo. And I got a chance to watch Quinyon Mitchell last year at the Senior Bowl. And I watched half of one of their practices on the first day. And I'm like, this dude's legit. This dude's 100% legit. And we're seeing it now with Philadelphia because fucking Howie Roseman always gets the best players, especially on defense. He always loads up on defensive players. And they're always good. And Quinyon Mitchell should probably be in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year because he's a stud. And I think that Revel is having a similar career arc to Quinyon Mitchell. And if he really goes out and crushes the combine, if he accepts an invite to the Senior Bowl, if he has a good performance there or the Shrine Bowl, the East-West game, whatever, that would be huge for him to end up in this upper spot of the draft. The Seattle Seahawks are on the clock at 18. This team is stuck. Going into this year, when I saw they acquired Sam Howell, I like Sam Howell quite a bit. But we saw him in this offense, and he struggled. Ooh, he did not look good. So I don't necessarily know that Sam Howell is the correct answer after Geno Smith. On the same token, I'm not 100% sold you can go into 2025 with Geno Smith as your quarterback. I'm not 100% convinced you can do that. So for me, sure, the defensive line could use depth, right? I think they've had some injuries this year, and their lack of depth has kind of showed. This team needs a quarterback. More specifically, they need a quarterback who can sit and learn behind Geno. Because say what you want about Geno and his ability on the field, he's a very good mentor, right? And I think that this might be a bit crazy, but this is me mocking what I would do. So I guess this is going to be kind of a bit of a mix, maybe more so what I would do, I guess. But I think Seattle needs to shoot on a quarterback this year. Because if you roll into 2025 with Geno Smith, I think you have one more year of Geno. And that's it. And we've learned that Sam Howell is not their quarterback of the future. I'm going to take Jalen Milroe to the Seattle Seahawks at 18 with the idea that you let him sit for as long as you want to play Geno Smith. Because the offense has weapons. DK, JSN's really stepping up as a top, not like a top wide receiver, but he's stepping up to show that he is a very good wide receiver, which I had him as wide receiver 1 coming out, but it's not a big deal. But he's really elevated his game. They have holes at tight end. They could use some interior depth in the offensive line. Kenneth Walker can't necessarily stay healthy, so maybe this is a draft where you look to draft a running back again on day 3, because Zach Charbonnet played nice in a filler spot, but he doesn't really have RB1 potential. And like I said, Kenneth Walker just can't stay healthy. But I think Milroe has the upside to let him sit for a year or two and learn an NFL offense, because this team right now does not have what it takes to contend. We're kind of loading up on pieces for the future, because right now, as it stands, the board doesn't really have anybody for Seattle to help them win now. They just don't. We've got the Atlanta Falcons on the clock at 19. Edge has to be a priority here for them. I don't think you can leave this draft without making edge a priority. However, there's not anybody here for them to take. This is a huge trade up spot for Atlanta when you see the first and second edge go off the board. I could totally see Atlanta moving up to get an edge rusher, because they have to leave this draft with, if you don't get one in the first round, you need to leave this draft class with at least 2 edge rushers on day 2 to day 3. We look at the secondary. I think Benjamin Morrison is totally in play here for Atlanta. He's recovering from the hip surgery, so it does make you wonder how he's going to be recovering from that. Don't mind the, oh Lord, that mark is bad. All right, we'll turn the hat forward. They could go wide receiver here. I don't necessarily love that either. I think, as much as it pains me to say, they could maybe go tight end here, because they have no idea how to use Kyle Pitts. They just don't. People are labeling Kyle Pitts People are labeling Kyle Pitts a bust this year, and that's not the case. It's just not. People who label Kyle Pitts a bust don't have any idea what they're watching. Kyle Pitts, talent-wise, and I'll die on this hill, is among the 5 most talented tight ends in the NFL. He can't help that he's not being used properly. If I was Kyle Pitts, I know that Atlanta is declining my 5th-year option in the offseason. I'm telling them right now, I'm not re-signing with your team. I'm just not. So you would be better suited to trade me. He doesn't have a ton of power in where he goes, but a change of scenery for Kyle Pitts is 100% what he needs for his future. Because right now, he's not getting the optimal play style in Atlanta. This team also is just kind of stuck because you made the signing of Kirk Cousins, which was a mistake at the time and is clearly a mistake now. And then you drafted Michael Penix, and he was fine enough in his first game, but he's against the Giants, right? So we still have no idea what we're looking for in Michael Penix either. For me, it's not necessarily an overly need, but if I am going to go into 2025 as Michael Penix as my starting quarterback, I want to give him the best offensive line possible. And if I can pair Chris Lindstrom, who is among the best guards in the NFL, with an offensive tackle, that's what I want to do. And I think the best one on the board is the Jonah kid out of Arizona. There wasn't an edge rusher there. There wasn't a corner that I felt comfortable taking right there. This is all about protecting Michael Penix. And even if it's a situation where we maybe kick Jonah inside and try him out at a guard position, or we make a decision on one of our 2 bookend tackles, we go from there and we press on. The Chargers are on the clock at 20. This seems like a no-brainer to me. This 100% seems like a no-brainer to me. It was sort of viewed as a down year from this year, but the Michigan connection is too strong to pass up. And this team has a massive hole at tight end. We're going to take Colston Loveland at 20. The Texans are on the clock at 21. This might sound a bit crazy, but Diggs out for the year. Tank Dell probably missing all of 2025. Prayers up for Tank Dell as well. Hope his recovery goes well. Same thing with Stephon Diggs, obviously. I think you have to take a wide receiver here. Like, no bullshit. I think you have to take a wide receiver here, especially with how the board's fallen. They have a need in the interior. I still don't love some of these options here. Like, Tyreek Williams is fine. I think Derek Harmon's might be getting a little bit too much hype right now. Walter Nolan, for me, is the next defensive tackle up. I don't know that I can take him at 21. I think you have to take a wide receiver here. And the best one on the board is Luther Burden. I think it makes the most sense to try to surround CJ Stroud with as much talent as possible and see if we can curb this sophomore slump or the regression that we're seeing this year. So we're going to surround him with as much talent as possible. John Mechie, who we, as at Vendetta's First Media, I know Trey liked him as well coming out. He played fine, but if you're telling me I can line up John Mechie or Luther Burden next to Nico Collins, I'm taking Luther Burden 8 days a week. The Broncos are on the clock at 22. This has to be on offense. This has to be an offensive pick. And originally, I was thinking about going a lot of my mocks that I've been doing outside of like recording and posting and articles and stuff like that. I know this is my first one. When I do them like on my own free time, I typically often find Luther Burden landing in Denver. But with the recent injury issues that Houston's been going through, we slide him up a little bit. I don't see how you can take Isaiah Bond in round 1. He's fast. And that's kind of it. Like, he's just not, he doesn't scream first round talent to me. He's gonna blaze the 40 time, right? He's gonna run real fast. The Sean Payton offense isn't predicated on fast dudes. It's just not. You can do someone like Emeka Ibuka, who I also quite like, who's having a really strong year for Ohio State. He's better suited to transition to the NFL to play primarily in the slot. And you have Cortland Sutton there. Marvin Mims is showing some promise over the last month to 6 weeks or so. They seem to be slowly, finally integrating him into the offense. They like Devon Bailey, their 7th round pick last year. If this is going to sound crazy, but there was a situation where Ashton Jeanty was on the board at 22. I think they sprint the turn in the card to Ashton Jeanty because they don't have a running back on this roster. They just don't. Javonte Williams never really fully healed from his knee injury. Jaleel McLaughlin's fine. He's more of a passing running back. He's shown promises on the ground as well. Absolutely stinks in pass protection. And Audric Estime was a terrible pick, and he was a 5th round pick. He's awful. He's not good at all. And the only reason he kind of got drafted where he was is because freaking Daniel Jeremiah blew him at the combine and proved to all of us that Daniel Jeremiah doesn't watch prospect tape. Because Daniel Jeremiah and the other guy on the broadcast, I can't remember, I think it's Charles Davis, I think is who it was. They were like, oh, I was expecting Audric Estime to run in the mid 4.5s, and he ran a 4.72 at the 40 because he's slow as dirt. Like, anybody watching could have told you that. But he's not cut out to be an NFL running back either. So if there is a situation where Jeanty was on the board at 22, I could 100% see Denver going in that route. In this instance, I know they just signed him to an extension, but Garrett Burroughs stinks. He's not very good. They signed Mike McGlinchey. He hasn't proven to live up to the contract. For me, I think you almost have to go offensive line here to sit him behind a Garrett Burroughs or a Mike McGlinchey until at least McGlinchey's contract expires and you can kick him over to right tackle. The player with the highest upside, you don't have to necessarily play him right away, is probably a Cameron Williams. I think that he's got all the raw tools that you're looking for, and it would be very beneficial for him to sit and learn behind someone like McGlinchey, who's a very good pro. He's a hell of a pro. Garrett Burroughs, good guy, very good pro in the term of like being a pro athlete. He'll be a good mentor. His play on the field might struggle. He'll be a good mentor, though. The Los Angeles Rams are on the clock at 23. I think this is the landing spot for Benjamin Morrison. I think that there is room to let him like fully recover from that hip injury, and he will make a huge impact on this team once he gets fully healthy for 2025. The Commanders are on the clock at 24. This is the team that needs an influx of speed outside. This is the part where I'm leaning more towards what I think they'll do, maybe versus what I think will actually happen. I think Washington's going to take Isaiah Bond because they need that speed on this offense. Now, this is not an indication of what I think Isaiah Bond is. I think Isaiah Bond is a day 2 pick all day long, probably someone you should reasonably be able to get in the late second to early third round, probably. But he's going to go in the first round because he's going to run crazy fast at the combine. The Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock at 25. Now, just hear me out for a second. Hear me out for 1 second. Because I thought about this the other day. If he's there, I really am intrigued by the idea of Tyler Warren to Pittsburgh. Stays in state, very good blocker. He could be an extension of the offensive line. Very, very strong receiver as he's shown this year. Tyler Warren to Pittsburgh may not seem like the opportune player to take because they have Pat Freiermuth. They've gotten Darnell Washington a little bit more involved in the offense this year, and he's a refrigerator on the football field. He's also a very strong blocker. I don't know that I love taking someone like Emeka Egbuka in the first round for this team. Yes, they have a huge need at slot receiver. They need a wide receiver too in general, right? They need a wide receiver too no matter what. I am really intrigued by Tyler Warren, though. You go look at the defense, though. The pick I'm going to turn in is Walter Nolan here. This is a slam dunk pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that you can find receivers in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. Every single year, there's always guys in every single round that you can find that step up their play and prove that they could be NFL playmakers. I like the defensive line, right? I like some of the defensive tackles, right? Keanu Benton, I kind of like. I think he has good upside. I don't think he'll ever be like a difference maker. I think Walter Nolan could be a difference maker. And I think that if you can pair those bookend edge rushers and you can if Cameron Hayward stays around for like one more year, you can learn under Cameron Hayward to play the defensive line. And you can eventually rotate Walter Nolan in and potentially kind of take over that starting job from a Keanu Benton. I think that'd be huge for the interior of the defensive line. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock at 26. Potential MVP winner, Lamar Jackson. Say what you will. Should he win? Should Josh Allen win? If I had to vote, I'd probably give it to Josh Allen. But Lamar certainly has a really, really strong fucking case as well. So who knows what they're going to end up giving the award out to. I think this is right around the range. If Donovan Jackson makes his way into the first round, I could see him going here to Baltimore. I think that he can play outside. He's proved that. They have the need in the interior of the offensive line. Donovan Jackson's a mauler. Donovan Jackson, very, very good pro. Unfortunately, a really good landing spot for him in Baltimore because I hate the fucking Ravens with a passion. That's a great pick for them. The Packers are on the clock at 27. They need defensive tackle help like nobody's business. Tyleik Williams all day long. Howie Roseman has an opportunity to probably land somebody who is going to perform really well and might be falling a little bit. Who knows, right? Could you go? This could be an Irsay pick. I honestly kind of think Josh Connerly he should test really well. He could maybe find his way into the top or the back end of the first round as well, potentially. I'm not going to mock that here. Honestly, like this is a situation where I think Howie might sit with Harold Perkins and let him recover because he's a freak of fucking nature and just let him recover. I don't think that's going to happen, though. We're going to go edge rusher because they have the need. And for me, the next best edge rusher on the board is Princely out of Ole Miss. I'm not even going to try to pronunciate that last name. You get the idea. Buffalo's on the clock at 29. They are also in a situation where they need a ton of help as well. Their secondary really struggles. Not really anybody here that I would feel comfortable taking in the first round. We go back to edge. I think the next best tackle or the next best edge rusher is either Landon Jackson or JTT. JTT had a really strong outing in Ohio State's first playoff game. I think he rides that momentum into the first round. JTT to Buffalo. The Minnesota Vikings at 30, one of the best stories in the NFL this year, I think. This team lost J.J. McCarthy, had to play Sam Darnold. They had the tragedy at cornerback with Kyrie Jackson. Rest in peace, Kyrie Jackson. They got decimated with injuries in the secondary still, right? And this team still finds a way to be what? They have 11 wins, 12 wins on the year. They're still in contention for the first overall seed in the NFC. Kevin O'Connell is your head coach of the year. I don't think there's any debate about that. What pick could help this team win right now? And I think you have to look at best player available. And for me, I think that's Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. Maybe not the most pressing need. However, you need the calling card of this team. Minnesota's got a really, really strong defense still somehow, right? Their defense is still pretty good. Offense, obviously loaded up with talent and weapons, right? Let's add to that defense. Jahad Campbell really stepped up as an edge rusher this past year. Could use a little bit more development in off-ball coverage. I mean, the defensive coordinator in Minnesota, Brian Flores, can definitely get him tooled up with that. The Lions are on the clock at 31. Edge rusher is a huge need for this team still. So we're gonna take an edge rusher. We're gonna take Landon Jackson here. I think he has a higher upside than Shamar Stewart. I think that you just kind of let him sit and you take this mold of clay that is Landon Jackson. And you kind of shape him into however you want him to be. The Chiefs are on the clock at 32. This, for me, since he's there, is a home run, no-brainer pick, and that's Tyler Warren. He takes over for Travis Kelce. Better blocker than Travis Kelce. Can still get out and receive. Travis Kelce, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year and they three-peat, I bet you Kelce retires anyway. He maybe should have retired last year after going back-to-back, having the moment on the field with Taylor Swift and the kiss and whatever, right? That's the first round. We're going to go over the first round really quick, and we're going to kind of fly through my second-round picks, and I'll talk about some players as they come up. Cam Ward, Travis, Kelvin Banks, Abdul Carter. I think Trey mentioned it in the comments that Deion would have a fit if Shedeur went to Cleveland, but as it stands, that's where he goes. They weren't able to take a quarterback. Vegas takes the best player available for their need, and that's Will Johnson. Will Campbell, Mason Graham, James Pierce. We have an edge rusher run here. James Pierce, Michael, Nick Skirton. Miami finally addresses the offensive line with Tyler Booker, Malachi Starks. Aaron Mack goes to Cincinnati with T. Higgins out the door. Ashton Genty becomes the running back 1 in Dallas, as we all think he's going to be. Jalen Walker, Siobhan Revelle. Jalen Milroe is a future pick for the Seattle Seahawks. That is a pick towards the future because as the board fell, there wasn't really anybody that could have helped them out at the moment. So they're picking for the future because unfortunately Sam Howell doesn't seem to be it. Jonah to Atlanta to protect Michael Penix, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, Cameron Williams, Benjamin Morrison, Isaiah Bond finds his way into the first round. Walter Nolan, Donovan Jackson finds his way into the first round. Tyleek Williams, Princely and JTT also find their way into the first round. Jahad Campbell, Landon Jackson, Tyler Warren. A very defensive-heavy first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to hopefully quickly go through the second round a little bit faster because I spent 53 minutes going over the first round. We're going to hopefully go through these a little bit faster. So Cam Ward went first overall. How can we protect him as best as we can? We're going to take Irsay out of Minnesota. Jacksonville took Kelvin Banks in the first round. I don't know where they go, to be honest. This is probably a situation where we hear Josh Connerly's name gets called, but they're not going to double up on tackles, even though they maybe should. This could be a really interesting landing spot for Emeka Egbuka since they don't have a true slot guy. And we're trying to surround... yeah, I like that. Well, is there anybody at corner or safety maybe? I think Xavier Watts finds his way in the first round as well. They have a need for tight end as well. We're going to go best player available at this time. There are some hitters here, though. We're going to take Derek Harmon here. Tennessee took Abdul Carter, best player available there. They're going to double up on... No, they're going to take... See, you almost can't even take a Trey Harris because you took Xavier Legette. We're going to take Emeka Egbuka to Tennessee. Cleveland drafted Shedeur. We're going to protect him with Josh Connerly. Vegas on the clock at 37. This one's going to sting a little. I feel you have to take Quinn. You have to take Quinn in the second round. You just have to. You 100% have to take Quinn Ewers in the second round since you missed out on you missed out on Cam and Shedeur in the first round. You have to leave this draft with a quarterback. It's a trade-up spot, as I've been saying all along, but there's no trades in my mocks. Quinn Ewers lands in Vegas. New England's on the clock at 38. They took Travis Hunter at second overall. We're going to play him both ways. Sorry, we're going to play him both ways. And that works out great because we're landing two really, really strong prospects for the secondary because we're also taking Xavier Watts. The Jets are on the clock at 39. We took Mason Graham at 8. I thought about going Jalen Milroe there. However, I think they find a bridge quarterback. That could be someone like a Sam Darnold. They may just pay Sam Darnold to be the quarterback potentially because I think Aaron Rodgers walks. Here, I think you go with the Bowling Green kid. Chicago's on the clock with back-to-back picks. We took James Pierce. This should probably be some form of an offensive line pick. Oh, man, there's just not really any, stellar options here, though. Millam's not bad. I like Tate Ratledge, but you can't take him at 40, I don't think. We're gonna use one of our picks on Deion Walker. If I'm the GM of the Chicago Bears, I'm spending a ton of money in free agency on the offensive line. So I'm going to load up on defense. And this almost is like a free luxury pick. So I'm going to take our shot on Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins is coming off the lower leg injury. He will probably not. I don't know that he's going to be able to participate in like the LSU Pro Day or like the Combine might be a bit iffy. But this dude's a freak of nature. We landed 3 premier prospects on the defensive side of the ball. I'm operating the picks for Chicago as what I would do. And what I would do as the Chicago Bears like GM, because Ryan Poles is a fucking moron, is I'm spending most of my money in free agency on the offensive line. Specifically, I'm going after Trey Smith out of Kansas City, the best guard available in free agency this year. That's where I'm going. The Saints are on the clock at 42. They took Mykel Williams at 10. They also need a quarterback. I don't think you can take Jackson Dart here. Carson Beck really, really took a step back this year in play. He had flashes, but man, Carson Beck did not look like his normal self this year. So I don't know that you can take Carson Beck here at 42. I just don't. So we look at the offensive line. They're going to take Millam out of West Virginia. San Francisco took Nick Skirton at 11. We're going to look to the secondary. And I quite like Dorian Strong, Davidson Igbinson, Denzel Burke, all really strong options. Oh, man. I think you pair. I like Imanori here. Colts on the clock at 44. They went Malachi Starks at 13. This LT Overton just hasn't really hit for me this year. I'll put my hand up that I was a bit wrong on Laiatu Latu last year. I had a 3rd round grade on him. I thought the motors wasn't there at all. I just I questioned his love for football. He's played very well this year. So I'll put my hand up on that one. However, they still need help at edge rusher. So we're going to go ahead and take Shamar Stewart at 44. The Bengals went Ermac in the 1st round. And here, I think it's almost best player available, which I think for my money, they don't need a safety, though. They took McKinley Jackson last year, who I like and who's played decently well. I think Jack Sawyer is playing his way into conversation here. I'm going to go Jack Sawyer. Dallas went Ashton Jeanty in the 1st round. This, I think, might be the landing spot for Carson Beck. Oh, I don't know that I can pull the trigger, though. You let him sit, though. Because Cooper Rush obviously isn't the starter. I know you just signed Dak to the extension, but I mean, that dude is not worth that money. No, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can. I just don't think you can. Or I think that'd be a really irresponsible pick. They like overdrafting for their linebackers here. I think they're going to go Barrett Carter at 46. The Cardinals are on the clock at 47. They took Jalen Walker at 16. I think here they're going to go Kenneth Grant. I think it would be in the best interest of the Miami Dolphins to double up here, and they're going to take Emory Jones. The Seahawks, I had them taking Jalen Milroe in the 1st round. So in the 2nd round, they're going to take Jahad Barron. Very strong year. Andrew Mbuka is also having a really good year there in Texas, too. Tampa took Revel. We're just going to call him Revel. They took Revel at 17. I kind of want to. Is it crazy to take Trey Harris? Maybe because they kind of prioritized wide receiver last year. This is the landing spot for LT Overton. 51 is Atlanta. They took Jonah. This has to be. There's nobody here. We're going to take Makuba. I think I called him Mukuba or whatever earlier. Luther Burden went to Houston in the first round. This is a really interesting landing spot for someone like Dante Corleone or Shamar Turner. I think it's a little. I don't like Harrison as much as the rankings do have him here, but I think it's too early to take Igusan, Burke, or Strong. We're going to take Shamar Turner. Nope, we're going to. Shamar Turner had a good year. We're going to take Shamar Turner. Let's see. The Broncos went Cameron Williams. They would be wise to go wide receiver here. They're going to go Trey Harris. I like that fit for them. Trey Harris had a nice year. Carolina with Will Campbell at 7. I think, again, we're running into this situation where we're just running out of like players I like here. I actually kind of like Kyle Kennard for this fit. Danny Dennis Sutton is also kind of an interesting fit. I think the secondary needs way more help, though. So I think they reach for a corner. For me, for my money, the best out of these 3 is Dorian Strong. Dorian Strong is a man-to-man savant. Is this a targeted ad at the top? At the top? Targeted ad at the top. I guess I'm missing it, maybe. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it is a targeted ad. Who knows? Dorian Strong, man-to-man savant, really good footwork. Has a really nice back pedal with his pad level as well. I think that he definitely needs to develop some zone awareness when he drops into zone coverage. But, I mean, for what it's worth as of right now. Schwab stock slices, Charles Schwab. Those ads, I see. I'm sorry. I haven't really been paying attention to those. The Chargers at 55 took Colston Loveland in the first round. I think this is kind of a no man's land in a sense. I like TJ Sanders and Corleone here. I also think Iannis Pebbles is going to find his way into day 2 as well. He will probably end up being a 3rd round pick. I think he's got really strong upside too. It was an ad before, is gone now. It said, puff, puff, don't smoke and drive. That is 100% a targeted ad. 100%, no questions asked, a targeted ad. We're going to turn the car for TJ Sanders here. Although I really debated between him and Corleone too. Washington went Isaiah Bond, which I don't like as a pick, but I could see them picking it for the influx of speed on the offense. Want to clarify. Here, they could make a move for Kevin Winston. Offensive line, there's nobody really here that you can take. We're gonna turn the card for Winston. Baltimore 57. They took Donovan Jackson in the first round. They seem to like these fucking reclamation projects and shit. You know what? I'm doing this for Trey. I'm doing this for Trey. Baltimore's taking Dante Corleone. That pick is specifically targeted for Trey. The Steelers are on the clock at 58. They took Walter Nolan at 25. Oh, Evan Stewart's interesting. He's just kind of small for me. Xavier Restrepo is a really strong option here in the second round for the slot. Oh, who do we have at guard? I like Rat. No, we're gonna go Restrepo. Xavier Restrepo to Pittsburgh. Buffalo also has 2 second-round picks this year. Green Bay went Tyleik Williams. at 27. I don't know why it says double running back as need for them when Josh Jacobs is having a pretty strong year, I'd say. So that one's a bit interesting to me. This one, I could see Harrison going here. Philadelphia, when Princely figure that last name out at 28. Again, I keep going back to these same positions, but I don't know. Evan Stewart would be really interesting in this offense as like a bona fide. That's actually really interesting. I don't know that that's like their biggest need, but the way the board's fallen, I kind of like that. That one feels like a kind of a stinky pick. However, the way the board's fallen for Philadelphia, I don't love some of the options. Buffalo went JTT in the first round at 29. They're going to take Iguson here at 61. And then they're going to take best player available is probably the way you need to go here. I can't take a running back because James Cook is fucking cooking this year, pun intended, I guess. We might double up on corner. We are 100% going to double up on corner. We're going to take Denzel Burke and Iguson. We're taking both Ohio State cornerbacks back to back like this. The Lions are on the clock at 63. Landon Jackson. And they're going to... They almost need to double up here as well. Maybe? Is that crazy? No, I don't think it is. Nuh-uh, this isn't crazy at all. For the fit, I like Kyle Kennard here. They're going to double up on edge rusher because they need it. And then Tyler Warren went 32nd to the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a fucking disgusting fit. There's a couple corners I could see their way sneaking into the back end of the second round. Wide receiver. I'm gonna have Kansas City taking Jalen Royals. I really think that Royals has a ton of potential. He's a very strong. I like his routes. Let's zoom out here a little bit so you guys can see the whole class here. I guess we'll zoom out one more. Very physical off the line of scrimmage, has really strong release, really talented footwork as well. He's got exceptional footwork off the line. So this is it. This has been the Christmas Day edition of we'll call it my first official mock draft since I did it here with you guys. A 2-rounder. Don't expect these too terribly often because I spent an hour and 15 minutes doing this. Not that the time's an issue, but I need to work on maybe not saying as much, especially in the first round. This is our first round picks. Screenshot that if you want to take a further look at it. These are our second round picks. Worth noting picks in the second round. Emeka Ibuka fell to the second round at 35. Quinn Ewers ended up going 37th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Harold Perkins finds his way into the early part of the second round, even coming off of the leg injury. And then that's kind of it as like worthwhile mentions here. Josh Connerly makes his way early into the second round. I like Connerly quite a bit. Xavier Watts finds his way into New England. Chicago does triple up on defense. They don't go offensive line at all. As I said, during those back-to-back Chicago picks, if I'm the GM, I'm going heavy at the offensive line. In free agency, and then I can address the free agency I can address offensive line in the back part of the draft. That's it. This has been my official, we'll call it my 1.0 mock draft. We're really just going to hit on the first round because I typically just do first round mock drafts. This is my official 1.0 mock. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to share this with your friends who are in love with the NFL draft process. If you have anybody who's interested in, the mock draft simulators and all of this stuff, be sure to send to them. If you like the video, please be sure to leave a like on it. Comment down below. Give me your thoughts. We're in the information stage right now. So a lot of these picks are going to come and go. They're going to change. I may be high on some players. You may be higher on some players. Let us know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit the subscribe button on the Video Sports Media YouTube channel. We're going to see you next time.